In an earlier lesson, we discussed the ways that swell pedals can affect the dynamics of a division of pipes, and we have these tilting shoes down below in front of the pedals in the middle of where the pedal board is that we manipulate in order to open and close swell shutters. Well, I also made a mention of the rightmost shoe. Very often, that shoe isn't a swell pedal at all. It's a crescendo pedal, and you don't want to confuse the two. They look alike, and they're right next to each other. The crescendo pedal is a device that is mostly what we would consider American. You won't find it on organs very often at all in Europe or in England or in Australia. The Germans have a rough equivalent to the crescendo pedal called the roller valse. We'll get to that in another lesson, but for now we're just concerned about this pedal called the crescendo, and we're going to learn today how to use it to good effect. The crescendo, when you open it, proceeds through what we call stages. Each stage has the ability of adding stops to what was in the stage before, and as all of these stages are proceeded through, we add and add and add until we get most of the stops in the organ to be heard. There's often a wonderful indicator of where you are in the crescendo on a modern American organ. This one has a particularly nice sort of thermometer-like indicator that shows how far the crescendo is open. The crescendo on this organ has 32 stages. And to show you what it does, I'm going to have no stops drawn, and I'm going to play a chord and a pedal note and hold it. And then I'm going to very gradually open the crescendo pedal from fully closed to fully open. And I want you to listen what happens. Okay, we've had stops that go on from 8-foot, quiet 8-foot pitches, and then more and more stops come on the pedal and swell and great. After the 8-foot stops are on, the 4-foot and 2-foot stops come on, and in this crescendo, the builder has designated how the crescendo is going to be set, and so they put the mixtures on at the end of the crescendo process. And now many crescendo pedals will give you the reed stops as well. If I were to pull all the stops that are on the crescendo at its fully open position, I'd have most of the stops pulled out. And of course, all of these stops are in because we're using at this time just the crescendo pedal. So I'm going to start now from the fully open position and close it. You may have to remember that not just stops are controlled by the crescendo. You have the couplers as well, and the first things to come on in a crescendo might be your swell to pedal coupler or your swell to great coupler. Now that we've seen how this works, I'd like to give you an assignment to test your skill and to start developing your skill at using the crescendo. When you open the crescendo, you must, of course, do it very slowly. But in the first stage, what stop actually is engaged? You may open it and see that stage 1 doesn't do anything, or does it? It may be that the crescendo added a coupler. Find out what stops come on. And one way to do this is to open the crescendo to a certain stage, play something, then try to duplicate that sound when the crescendo is off. Take the crescendo and cancel it, close it all the way, and then pull what you think it is, and then see if it's it. In stage 2 of the crescendo, we had the 8-foot Dolken. How many different stages does your crescendo have? As I mentioned, in older organs, there could be as few as 8, 10, or 15 stages. This one has 32. Check it out. At what point in the crescendo does the crescendo appear to be fully open? You may not hear any changes in the final 2 or 3 stages of the crescendo pedal. Organ builders tend to like this because if they don't have any additional additions in the last 3 stages, they can compensate for some irregularities in the regulation of the pedal itself, and to be sure that you're getting the full amount of crescendo they wanted, even though you may or may not ever reach the full end of the opening of the crescendo pedal. And then the final assignment is to open the crescendo fully and play, making sure you play on each division, and try to determine what stops were not in the fully open crescendo. You'll probably find that the biggest reeds on the organ may have been left off. They have been left off in this particular crescendo. And so you still don't have all of the organ on in a crescendo most of the time when it's fully open. You still have to add a few extra stops to complete that full organ registration.